Alright, today we're going to look at the second game from my match against Arkadij Naiditsch in the World Cup 2019, which took place in Hann, Siberia. So I won the first game, and if you haven't seen this yet, I would definitely recommend you to check it out. And this meant that Naiditsch had to win the second game to force tiebreaks in this match. So we will get right into it. I was playing with the black pieces, Naiditsch with the white pieces, and he surprised me already with the first move, knight f3. I was expecting more a move like 1e4, which is Naiditsch's main weapon. Now we will see a Catalan emerges on the board, which was another surprise to me. Naiditsch and Catalan, for me at least, does not go together, but he has played this in the past, and I decided to surprise him early by taking on c4. Bishop g2. And now the move bishop b4 check, which I haven't done before. Naiditsch replied with knight c3, which is pretty much a pawn sacrifice because white is not getting this pawn back anytime soon. Castle, castle. Here white has a number of different moves available. Queen a4 has been the most popular recently, but this line is somewhat rare anyway because the consensus in theory is that white does not get enough compensation, or black has a number of ways to equalize and is not in trouble here. Knight d5, queen c2, bishop e7. Since I did not prepare this line specifically before the match, before this game, I was kind of half remembering the moves here. Bishop e7 makes sense so that the knight can come to b4 in case white plays e4. So Naiditsch went rook d1. He was definitely more familiar with this line than I was. And here black has two moves, bishop d7 or rook b8. And I vaguely remembered rook b8 is the move here. However, in my notes it says bishop d7 is even better. I think I have to do some further investigation to figure this out. In any case, both moves are fine for black. Now e4, and here the move knight cb4, which I also kind of remember that this is typical. And Naiditsch played queen d2. This is a logical move because if queen b1, then I can just put my knight on d3 and it cannot be bothered there, really. It can be exchanged. White can play queen b5, and I calculate this line. White is going to win back the pawn, but black gets the bishop pair, plays b5, gains some more space on the queen side, develops naturally. This seems completely fine for black. So Naiditsch went queen d2. Now knight takes c3, and now the queen can take back. This is why the queen went to d2. And the point is, after b5, now we also see why the rook went to b8, not only to support the b5 push, but also to get out of this diagonal, get out of any potential tactics. And now we see why white want to take back with the queen, so he can go b3 now and attack this pawn, which supports this outpost on d3. I play bishop b7, hitting the pawn on e4, and knight e1 is a smart move to defend the pawn on e4 and also stop any knight d3 business. And here I was not quite sure how to continue. So in the end I settled on c takes b3, which is a good move. And I was quite happy to see a takes b3 now. I was more worried about queen takes b3, but also objectively black should not be in any trouble. Just play knight c6 back, hitting the pawn on d4. And if white defends this pawn, then black can go a6, defend this pawn, and black stays a pawn up, has knight a5, knight c4 ideas. This is just better for black. So white should probably play d5 here, and now knight a5, queen takes b5, and c6 is a very smart move. Making use of this pin and also protecting the knight on a5. And after queen d3, there will be just massive exchanges here, and black equalizes. So this would have been also quite fine. Not sure if I would have found this in the game. I was more looking at a5 here, which is also okay. So a takes b3, and here's an important moment. So how would you continue? How would you ease the pressure that black is facing still, because white has this nice center and has the half open A and C file? What would you do with the black pieces? Pause the video right now. So the move f5 really attracted my attention because I'm playing on the light squares and I'm also likely going to trade the light squared bishops, and I'm getting the square for my knight. And I think this was a very important move to get some counterplay in. Naiditsch took on f5. f3 is possible, but it's clearly weakening the white king and it's weakening this diagonal, so it's not that pleasant to play this move. Here, for example, the simple rook a8 move was possible to defend this pawn, and black should be doing quite well. I was looking at f takes e4, rather f takes e4 and c5 to further attack the white center, and this would be also okay. White should go bishop e3 now, knight c6, d takes c5. White has won back the pawn, but black has organized himself. This is fine for black as well. So Naiditsch took on f5, I took on g2, trade the bishops, knight takes g2, and now rook takes f5. And here you can see what happened. Now I have nice access to these light squares in the center, especially the square d5 for my knight, for my rook, for my queen. And if we look at the bishops, I have the better bishop because my bishop complements the pawn structure better since it's controlling the dark squares, whereas the bishop by white is more restricted. And obviously also the squares around the white king are weaker, which leads to a weaker king safety. Now Naiditsch played knight e3, knight d5, trading the knights. I was quite happy about that. Knight takes e3. And here an interesting moment happened. I was expecting bishop takes e3, which would be the normal recapture. But Naiditsch had to win, so he had to try something, and he took with the pawn. After bishop takes e3, black has different ways to continue. I was not sure yet. Rook a8 would be one option. Queen d5 is another option. Queen takes c7. I give one pawn back, but I don't mind. Because after bishop d6, now queen goes back to c2, rook f7. I have organized myself, my pieces are harmonious, my pieces are in good spots. This is just fine for black. And if white takes the pawn a7 here, then I could go for an attack h5, h4 and really make use of these weakened light squares around the white king. This could become quite dangerous for white. So f takes e3, and this was a very important moment in the game. White has the intention to, well, for one, take on a7, obviously, and for the other, push his pawns forward and restrict my pieces. And I really had to find a way to deal with this, and it's not easy. So you can, if you want to, pause the video and really think about it, how you would respond to this plan by white. Critical moment here. I played rook f7, which is indeed the best move in the position, prophylactically going out of the e4 idea. Another move which would be possible, prophylactically, to stop e4 is rook d5, and I considered it, but it did not really sit that well with me. It would be fine, however, bishop b2, and now let's say rook a8, and black is doing okay. Rook f7, now rook takes a7, obviously, hitting the pawn on c7 immediately, bishop d6, and here white should play a move like rook a2, but in terms of getting a win, that would be not really an attempt. So e4, this must be the critical move, and I hope you saw that in your calculations when you examined maybe rook f7. And here the question is, how should black respond? Because the white idea is very clear. Go e5, push the bishop away, then the pawn on c7 once again needs protection, pawn e6 might be weak, and this could turn around really quickly. So what can black play here? You can think about that once again if you want to. Black plays e5 himself. This first looks like it's impossible because of d takes e5, but in fact d takes e5 is impossible for white because of bishop c5 check, making use of the unprotected rook, or rather white cannot take the bishop because queen takes d1 is checkmate next move. And if white moves the king, then queen f8 is very strong, hitting the rook once more and threatening rook f2, and white will lose material. So Naiditsch played bishop e3. Now e takes d4, bishop takes d4, and queen g5. Now I'm getting my pieces out, the bishop is defending the pawn. I was feeling very confident here. I was feeling that black is much better already. I overestimated the chances, but black is definitely better. Now Naiditsch played very creatively here. b4, smart move to maybe sometimes have an option like bishop c5, also stopping c5 by black in some cases. And another point which I actually missed is that after rook bf8, the most natural move, white can play queen b3. And here I was starting to sweat, because the simple unpinning with king h8 would be not a good idea. Well, it would be possible, but e5 was bugging me quite a bit, and I cannot take this pawn because of my weak back rank. White wins immediately due to queen takes f7 and rook a8 check followed by checkmate. So here in fact bishop e7 is still possible, but it looks a little bit uneasy. Rook takes c7 and so on. White has won a pawn. Computer still says it's equal, but you don't want to do this necessarily. The other move, which is actually the best move, is h6. Makes sense to stop this back rank issues, but here I did not like rook f1. And here black can, however, play queen g6, and one important motive I missed was that e5 is not possible here because of bishop takes e5, and queen b6 check, picking up the rook on a7. So white would need to play something else, bishop c5 for example, but here white has no hopes for win. He's defending, he's worse. So this would have been the best continuation, but practically my move was also quite fine. c5, which looks insane. But I was getting low on time. I did not see anything wrong with it, so I just played it. And now we're getting into a very, well, spicy time trouble phase. Naiditsch still had a lot of time here, around 20 minutes, but now he also let his time run down under maybe 2 minutes because he was looking and looking to find something, but there is nothing here for white to get an advantage. Actually, the position simplifies, or white is much worse. There are some important variations. Rook takes f7 makes sense, first of all. Rook takes f7, and now one important variation is bishop e3 and c4. That's very important. That's the idea behind c5, that I want to stop this pin in this manner. And now bishop takes g5 looks like white can win a piece, but the b2 pawn decides the game. Rook a7 with the threat rook a1, and it's game over. White can also play some other moves here, like queen a3. I calculated quite a long time. Queen f6 is a strong move I did not really see. I want to play bishop f4, which is also fine because the tactics once again work out. Bishop takes f4 and queen takes f4. And the rook endgames are never worse for black because of his protected paused pawn, and white has no winning chances. So in the end, Naiditsch set it on b takes c5, bishop takes c5. More pieces are traded. Important that I'm taking with check because white has this threat of rook d8, king g2. And here it's still possible to go wrong even with so little material. Queen c4, which first looks like a decent move to stop this pin, would be a huge mistake because white can force a pawn endgame, which is just winning because he's going to pick up the pawn on c4, and that's it. So with my time running down, I had to find some kind of solution, and we were both down under 1 minute here. And I played queen f2 check, king h3, and queen f6 to stop rook d8 once again. And if white takes on b5, I can go queen e6 check and pick up this pawn. So Naiditsch played queen d5, and I said, well, white is not threatening anything, so I can make some space for my king with h6, rook e1. Now white is threatening to take the pawn, and here in fact I was considering just to go king h7, but now white picks up a pawn. Position is still a draw, but white can try a little bit more. And with 2 seconds on the clock, I played the move b4. And I was quite scared to see it myself after I made the move. I got the 32 seconds on the clock. I was like, that was pretty close. To lose on time in a position like that would be really painful. So I played b4, which is a good move, not giving this pawn away. Naiditsch played queen c4. And here actually queen c3 would be a very decent move and just clear matters right away. But I saw king h7 is fine because queen takes b4 is not possible. And Naiditsch played this move now. White should play something else. He has a number of different moves, rook b1. It's all a draw pretty much. But queen takes b4 loses the game. Because now queen e6 check, the king goes to g2, what else? Well, we can just show the alternatives real quick. g4 allows rook f3 check. And actually this is all I saw. I saw him getting my pawn back. I was happy, but black's just winning right away after rook f2 because there's nothing stopping the checkmate threats. So king g2, and here's the move that Naiditsch missed. Queen a2 check, and that's a very painful check from the side for white. He cannot move a piece in between, and the king has to move again. And Naiditsch moved it back to h3. Well, king g1, now at the very least I can give a perpetual, which I saw. Queen f3, queen f2, and perpetual means I win the match, but also black is winning here with the move rook a7 with the threat of rook a2. And that's it. And if king h1, then there's rook f2, and this decides the game right away. So Naiditsch played king h3. I repeated moves because why not? And now it was the 40th move, and I knew a draw would mean I win the match. I proceed into the next round. But I had around 1.5 minutes here. I was thinking, well, this move rook f2 looks very attractive. So I spent 1.5 minutes here on this move, and I thought, well, I'm definitely not going to lose this game if I play rook f2. And so I played it. And in fact, a little bit surprisingly to me, Naiditsch resigned right away. But in fact, the position is lost in either case. White can still try to put up some resistance here. I can show you a sample line. Queen f7, but the king is just in too much trouble and the white king is safe enough. So this should go in the end in black's favor. Here, for example, black picks up another pawn. The white king is still in a huge amount of trouble. Black should win in the long run. But understandably, Naiditsch, of course, knowing that he will never win this position, did not want to continue and he resigned right away. So a very exciting game, and a game also I'm very proud about, even prouder maybe than the first game, which was objectively of a higher quality. But here I was under pressure the entire game from right the get-go. Naiditsch sacrificed the pawn and put me under pressure, but I found some very important moves, and those pawn moves I was quite happy about. First f5, attacking the center, then e5, stopping e5 from white, and then this last move c5, which was not objectively best, but practically it simplified matters right away, and we got to this queen-rook endgame, which I should not have won necessarily, but then in time trouble, Naiditsch made the last mistake and I could even win this. So I could win this mini-match with 2-0 against Naiditsch, which obviously is a huge success for me against such a strong player, which was rated for a very long time above 2700 and has played against many of the, or all of the best players. And so I proceeded into the next round, where my next opponent would be Russian Nikita Vityugov, number 25 in the world, rated 2732, I believe. And we'll talk about this in the next video. Until then, let me know in the comments what you thought about this game. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon again. Bye bye.